Hello, everyone. Welcome to sunny St. Paul, Minnesota for another home game for the Minnesota Strike. My name is Rebecca Klein, and I am here with Kelsey Percy. Kelsey, it's a beautiful spring day here in Minnesota. What are we looking forward to in today's matchup between the Minnesota Strike and the Philadelphia Surge?
Rebecca, I think we're really at a different point of the season than we were the last time we stood in this booth. The last game obviously was a real beatdown by the Gridlock against our home team, the Strike. And I think the games away really steadied the ship. Strike has had a lot of opportunity to work on other things. Surge has, at a 2-1, on the season so far, has played some tough games early, but a really reduced roster. So this is going to be a case of, is Strike on that upward trajectory? Can Surge fight through some of these injuries and losses of really key players, or do they have the depth to go past, I'm not going to make a pun out of it, Rebecca, but past the Strike team? This could be a really interesting game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, reminiscent of the New York team that we saw here a few weeks ago, in that they had a pretty pared down roster. They were heading to Milwaukee the next day, and still were able to put together an extremely strong game here against the Strike. So, yes, smaller group here from Philly, but we have seen that before.
Well, and I'll add to this, Rebecca, with New York, it was almost an advantage, because a lot of their star power got more playtime. They weren't distributing down the depth, and the game wasn't paced enough. There weren't maybe just one or two really drag out points to where it was hampering them by causing their key players to overwork. So that would be something that I would want to see personally from the Strike. Can they make key contributors on this Surge team really have to work so hard that they don't have enough in the tank down the backstretch?
Yeah, absolutely. It's also a pretty hot day today. As we all know, the turf and the black sort of rubber on the turf gets pretty hot. So I think that endurance is going to be interesting to see. Not super windy today. Another beautiful day for Ultimate here. So we're hoping that doesn't have too much effect on quality of play. Should be a nice clean game on both sides.
Yeah, I think we can very briefly talk about, we do have a little bit of air quality, right? Mm-hmm. We've got some wildfires up in Canada, so players may, plus the heat, have a little bit more trouble breathing. Is it enough of a distraction? Is it enough of a hamper to affect them mentally, might be the biggest part, but definitely well within the realms of safe playing, which is something that we would care about.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking a little bit about the rosters that we're seeing today. So like we said, the Surge team has arrived here with a slightly smaller roster even than we expected as of a couple days ago. A few people dropping out due to illness or injury. So certainly lots of players to be excited about as we see the Surge team there on our screen. But we do have a few people that are missing today. Natalie Bova was a late drop. She will be in Milwaukee tomorrow to play against the Monarchs, but an important player to have lost for the Surge. Another name is Sarah Liang, who has been real central handler firepower for this Surge team. She's out due to illness today. And of course, Lindsay McKenna, not here because she's with the U.S. Team this weekend. So that is a lot of talent for the Surge to be missing, along with Kit Astrid as well.
Yeah, and when we say U.S. team, that's U.S. World Games team. Mm-hmm. That is about a high up as it gets, folks. Speaks very much of Lindsay McKenna's role and contributions that she could be doing this team, but obviously when you get a chance to be on the World Games team or be, I believe, alternate 4, you got to go for it.
Takes the priority.
Absolutely. Yeah, so some real key contributors, but we are about to key up some action here, and while we wait,
we'll talk about a couple of our sponsors. So the Discraft Ultra Star is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by the Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out PUL Athlete Collab shops. And also, if you plan to enjoy today's live stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all donations go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you high-quality live streams like the one today. Thank you for supporting the Strike. Kelsey, any other players particularly we want to watch out for on either side here?
I mean, one of the players that we heard called out was Jess Hendrickson, who I think was one of the real bright lights in that tough loss to Gridlock. And we heard just had some pretty incredible plays while on the road. If you haven't seen those away games for Strike, please go check out the YouTube channel. Go watch them. Absolutely worth the watch for the Strike team. So someone who can be a real difference maker, really putting good pressure on. And someone else I'll call out is Frankie Sereniti. So just off of college nationals and was a absolute playmaker there. And someone that I think that could translate to very well for this Strike team. And I think we saw flashes of that in the Gridlock game.
Absolutely. So we're getting ready for our opening pull here. Walby with the disc, our starting D-line from the Strike getting ready to go.
And sorry, when I said D Nationals, that was Carlton Eclipse that Sereniti plays for.
Indeed. All right, first pull is up. We're getting started with the Surge on offense. Sarah Hiranet chasing the disc over towards the sideline to knock it down just before it tails out of bounds. And Danielle Walsh is picking up.
Good roller there, really pinned to the sideline. And you can see right off the mark some flat marks, which I like just the difficulty of initiating play with that.
Hendrickson almost baiting the under there from Hart, but Hart is able to run through and find Morse downfield. Morse finds the around to Walsh. There's some contact there. That is Maroon and Cook. Coaches did shout out that matchup before the game, that would be a fun one to watch. Both are extremely speedy and dynamic downfield cutters. And we see them getting involved right away. From my perspective, it looked like there was a bit of contact before the disc got there. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, it's something that's going to be interesting and something that I spoke a lot about during the D3 and D1 Nationals broadcasts is that I like a lot of the physicality, like the intensity of defense that I'm seeing increasing in the women's game. But both teams have to be okay with that level of physicality and feel safe in doing so.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it's an agreement of players to play up to that level of physicality. Jane Cook, someone who can play at that level, but it involves risk.
Yep. And looks like another foul call here. Emily Shields and Courtney Walby with some contact. Looks like a no contest. That previous foul call from Grace Maroon was upheld by the observers. So Shields over to Milligan.
So already, Rebecca, we're seeing that intensity, those kind of bids and that like breakup play. Yes, the possession's going back to Surge, but it could make Surge start double guessing or thinking too long about some of their choices.
Absolutely. Milligan finding Morse downfield. Surge is continuing to stay pretty patient. This has been a number of throws, and they have not wavered. Shields with the disc now, and calmly resetting to Walsh. Walsh fakes away Hart, and then finds Shields again, who then finds Hart, rewarded for that cut. Looks like there were some defensive switches downfield as we have Jane Cook covering Liz Hart now. And Hart sends a nice OI over there to Danielle Walsh. That is the first goal.
Yeah, Ellie Fireside Ostergaard had switched to that Walsh matchup, and you saw the angle on that, Rebecca. It arced up and was really completely out of play for the defender. Beautiful edge on it. Take a look at it again. Very patient, sees the cuts develop, throws kind of cross-body, really casual, doesn't even step out. And I think the quickness of that release probably caught Jane Cook off guard. Watch this again. It's kind of an open lane. And maybe that's a game choice. I'd love to see a flat mark there.
On the sideline.
That's something that we can watch and see how it develops. Like, what is the defensive strategy on the end zone for this team? I don't think Cook expected the defender to get beaten to that corner.
Yep. Speaking of D3 Nationals, big shout out to Liz Hart and also her teammate Linda Morse for coaching the Haverford-Bryn-Mawr Sneetches, who came in second place at D3 Nationals a couple weekends ago. That was really fun to watch, and so nice to see our elite club and pro players at coaching at the college level. It was very fun to watch.
They had a deep athletic team. It was beautifully coached.
Indeed.
And, yeah, it was so much fun watching those games and getting to meet those players.
Poyer with the disc and hucks to Wood. Wood and Semper come down with the disc almost at the same time. Again, quite a lot of contact there.
A lot of contact, and I love this too of like the former teammates. There's a level of trust there.
Yeah, for those who weren't aware, Chelsea Semper used to live in Minnesota and played on the Strike for the last 2 years. We're going to see a couple more angles of this. Hard to tell who got there first.
Eileen Semper.
Yep.
I think she tracked the disc first. Let's look. Oh, this might be a better angle. Beautiful. Massive credit to our camera crew. That's a spot-on shot. Eileen Semper.
Yeah,
but that's
Wood had
very tough to call in real time.
Wood had to come back a little bit because it was a bit underthrown, so that may lead in Semper's favor. It looks like the observers are chatting with the players to try to come to a conclusion. We really appreciate our observers who, for those of you who are not familiar with Ultimate, they are not referees, but they will make calls when players ask them to. In cases like this. So it looks like the call was contested. They elected not to go to the observer for ruling, so the disc is going back to Poyer.
And I really like that decision, Rebecca. When you are not 100% positive one way or the other, generally better to contest, go back, and play your options.
And that stoppage in play maybe messed with some of the flow. Poyer's next throw to Wood is not completed. Can be hard right on the sideline there to concentrate on catching and staying in bounds.
Yeah, I would have loved to see a clear there instead.
We've got Joe Maida here finding Semper, and Maida continues down the line, fakes that big huck.
It was a good poach by Bacon out in the lane.
This is Moeller hucking deep to her teammate, and Anna Harnage catches the goal. So that is a break for Philly Surge.
A break right off the bat, Rebecca. I love the intensity and the fast attack, that fast break look from Surge. They aired out you could see the willingness that had there been a cut going, that first throw would have gone. Yeah, look at this again.
This one more time. It does look like Semper got there first, I will say. I think her hand.
But part of the question, because it's, okay, got there first, could get there without that quantity of contact, or was it Wood initiating the contact by coming at the disc? Remember, there are two levels to how this goes, but really fantastic, quick, deep shot there from Surge. Well played.
Yep. And, worth noting, like we said, the disc did go back. Strike did retain possession, and then a turnover followed. So
yeah, I liked where Mueller developed that cut from. You could see it from further across the field. If you're watching this from home, go back a couple seconds. Watch where that cut develops from. Yep. Very nice placement, and you can see the poise and the skill level of the Surge team.
Yep, a classic sort of power position huck to a streaking cutter. Timing went really well for both of those players. So pulling the Surge is back to Strike. Steph Rupp picks up the disc and centers to Courtney Walby. Rupp is immediately streaking deep. Looks like maybe a pull play.
And one of the things that you'll see characteristic of this Strike team that you might not see with other teams is that they've just rolled out a complete second offensive line. So this is the line that will have practiced together. It's not their starting O-line, but one that'll have fresh legs that they have confidence to take this offensive look.
And here we've got that Cook-Maroon matchup again.
Love
this time
that.
on the other end. Fireside Osterberg comes back and looks like the fake got away from her. Happens to all of us. That is a turnover for Strike. Walsh picking up for Surge.
2 break opportunities now in 2 possessions for Surge. They've got to be feeling pretty good about this. But a shot too quick and a quick turn.
Yep. Lucky break for the Strike with that throw just bouncing off the hands of K-Spa. Fireside Ostergaard shooting for Anik Reagan, and that is a goal for Strike.
We saw this separation in the previous home game, Rebecca. Anik Reagan, a rookie for this team, has been practice player before, but last game, first time she had been active, and I love that quick attack. And the edge that LA Fireside Ostergaard put on it to make it unplayable for the defense. And if you think I'm repeating myself, it's because I am. Because both the shots to end zone by Surge and this shot, and you see again the attempt to holster just slipping away.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, those throws requiring that edge to get right around the defender. So neither the mark nor the downfield defender, Walsh, really have a shot at it.
And I think there are two ways this could play it. I think if it's a little flatter, Ostergaard could have just sent it more out to space. There was still end zone to play into. But Regan making a really good adjustment, reading the edge of the disc very well. And that's a good response from Strike.
Anique Regan is a former track and field runner, extremely fast. So certainly a good option downfield to throw and have her go get it. Striker going to be looking for another break here to get this a little bit more even. We've got Milligan from Surge with the disc in the middle of the field. Maroon streaking deep, up to Liz Hart. Hart finds Shields. Shields just a little too long for Maroon, and Jane Cook catches the block. Centers to Monshine. Up to Julia Hill, playing in her first home game of the season today. Back to Monshine. Monshine powers it deep, looking for Maddie Lander. Was it in bounds? Yes, it was.
That is a big swinging punch from Strike. You know, I got a little concerned when two back-to-back offensive opportunities, two fairly quick turns, you see the pressure from Surge. But I love this return pressure by Strike, the quick opportunity to catch that and not just tap it down and run through, because it allows Strike to so quickly get a move on the disc, and the confidence to take this shot. Precision placement and incredible effort there. That's a good one for Strike.
Looks like some of the Surge players calling Lander out on the catch, so we'll kind of see, does she drag her feet there? I'm not entirely convinced. Maybe you can see that again or let the viewers decide at home, but a little close on that one.
First point of contact might have been knee, and that was very, very close. Thankful once again that I am not
an observer.
The observer.
Yeah, see it one more time here. A little hard to tell where the line is exactly. I'm not so sure about that one.
From this angle, it looks like knee was first point of contact, and that was in. Definitely wasn't toes.
Yeah, it might have been forearms, honestly.
So I think we'll just echo back appreciation for our observers in making tough calls.
Yep. So next point, we're rolling on here with Walby on the pull. Another nice roller going out right around that 40-yard line, similar to the last first pull we saw at the game. And this is Alvey with the disc. Alvey finds Maida, who is shooting deep, testing Mexstroth, and Mexstroth gets that block. This is what we want to see from her.
Absolutely. Rebecca, I think you and I both felt that Sarah Mexstroth was a little quiet last game. A player who has so much national and world's level experience, who could absolutely take over the field, changes the dimensions of a field, and a little bit of a muted presence. But that is the type of big play that had this Surge team circling her name as one of their players that they would have to plan around.
Absolutely. Walby and Rupp, Kansas City teammates working together. Rupp finds Jess Hendrickson. Hendrickson looking for some help. Walby peels off the front of the stack. Sort of in power position here. Walby hucks it, looking for Regan. We see that speed, but just a little too far.
You know, ordinarily, Rebecca, I would say, was that a wind gusting that took care of that? But we're not seeing a lot of wind on the field.
So. Here's Harnage with the disc, kind of a flat mark again. Finds Maida. Maida with a big wind up for a backhand. Looking for Alfano, and just out of the reach of Alfano. Some nice pressure there from Jane Cook again. May not have gotten a hand on it, but certainly applied pressure.
I think Jane Cook did get a hand on it. I think that effort might have been a tip.
Looks like she may be calling an injury.
Incredible effort. The catch-up, Cook was yards behind, and I loved the height on that throw. Makes it incredibly playable. Watch the wind-up.
Yeah,
you see that elevated edge. If Jane Cook isn't there, that's absolutely caught for a score.
Hard to say.
Hard to say on the actual D or no, but the pressure was definitely there. I think if not, that's a two-handed catch versus the one, and that's a Surge score. So very strong effort from Cook. Hopefully recovers quickly.
Yeah, maybe just an episode of hitting the ground kind of hard. The shorter throw from Monshine pointing to her chest, that's my bad for Sarah Needy. So Surge have another opportunity for the hold pretty close to the end zone here. Maida's picking up.
That's a tough one. You don't want these short field turns. it's just a huge opportunity for Surge.
Semper with the disc right on the center hash marks and finds Maroon. Maroon just juking and getting open, leaving her defender in the dust.
Maroon is devastating in these small field spaces. A little bit of stat line for y'all at home. Grace Maroon just played D1 with U of Penn. They were only the 17th seed in the women's. God, what an incredible D by Mextra.
Yep.
But Grace Maroon managed to notch up 8 goals, 25 assists, and 9 Ds throughout the course of her tournament, most of that in pool play. And I think, again, just pointing to the athlete that Maroon is and someone who they will have to watch for on that front red zone area. And again, that a college player is the person that they're putting in that prime cut space, I think really says more than I need to say.
And look, I think that the celebration or non-celebration of just setting the disc calmly down in the end zone is a little underrated. And I really appreciate Maroon's composure there. I mean, you're out there breaking ankles and then just kind of walk away. It's all you really need to do. Your play is spoken for itself. All right, Morse here with the pull. Strike still down a break. So looking to punch in this hold first. Nice floaty pull. This is hanging for a long time. Bacon catches and centers to Daly. Lots of pressure there from K-Spa, but she's able to come down with it. Daly finds Johnson McKee.
That's a beautiful find.
Johnson McKee up to Poyer. Poyer being marked by Liz Hart. This is a nice matchup as well. Squeezes it up to Byers. Byers and Maroon again. These are all great matchups, so sound like a broken record. Bacon is open wide in the middle and then playing catch with Byers. Striker doing a good job finding space here. Beck with the disc.
Something I will shout out, Rebecca, they're all pretty much on one half of the field. Like
one third maybe.
One width of the field.
Yeah. Looks like a pick was called. Johnson McKee has the disc right on the end zone line, marked by Haranet. Lefty around throw from Johnson McKee to Byers. Byers finds Daly. Daly's looking for some help. And there's Poyer. Looks like maybe some kind of switching around in the defense on the end zone, and Poyer found herself free.
You know, Rebecca, in general, I like defenses that play defend the front line and play the spaces and try to make harder shots. The choice in an end zone or red zone set, that said, Poyer way too open on the cone. And we haven't had a chance to talk about Poyer's speed yet. You usually see that in an open field, but here I think you just see the burst of that quick change of direction, the fast step, and the confidence that these players have in Poyer's ability to get open.
Absolutely. Yeah, extremely fun player to watch from the Minnesota area originally. Went to Pacific Northwest for college and then came back a few years ago. Has been playing with Dragon Thrust and Strike over the last few years. Such a dynamic cutter, so difficult to mark, to guard downfield as well. So Walby here with the pull again. We'll see if it's another roller. Going out the sideline nearest to us again. So we're 3-3. I will say we have 12 different players on the assists and the goals so far. So lots of different people getting involved. We'll see if teams will keep that up or if anyone will sort of emerge as a star in this game. So far it's been quite well-rounded. As we expected, another rolling pull. Milligan is picking up. Trying to figure out exactly where it went out of bounds. Right at the midfield mark. Milligan with a throw over to Shields. Shields finding Walsh. Walsh is sort of the general of the backfield here on lots of the O points for Surge. Milligan and Walby working together. Nice block there from Hendrickson. Again, what we heard earlier was that she was really a monster in the downfield space, generating pressure, and does just that on Hart.
Yeah, bringing that defensive pressure in, and you saw her hold the defensive line and then really assert herself into that space.
Rupp finds Serenity. Serenity, who we don't typically see in the backfield. Looking for Rupp. Nice find. Or sorry, that was Walby. Now Rupp has the desk. Looking for some help. And it looks like there was a call, timeout. It looks like we see that green penny on the ground from Donnie Wood. Looks like there was a timeout. Looking a little stagnant, I think, from Strike. We saw this a bit in the last game where there wasn't a lot of handler help. Someone had the disc, and then there wasn't another handler back to help them. So not a bad call to call the timeout.
Yeah, more on that later.
So we're going to highlight one of our sponsors, Roya. Roya Relational Financial Planning can help people build healthy relationships with money and financial plans that are designed to help make dreams possible. Learn more and schedule a conversation at www.royamoltaji.com. And after you scheduled your appointment, if you're looking for a delicious treat that is gluten-free, dairy-free, oil-free, peanut-free, and has no artificial preservatives, you should try Olympic granola for a great snack and support professional Ultimate Frisbee.
I could use some granola right about now.
I could too. We were just talking about it. I had some this morning.
That's my go-to snack.
The Strike calling the timeout here with the disc, so it looks like they have subbed in a few new players.
Yeah, Rebecca, I don't mind this timeout call. I could see the player frustration of like they had just broken through. But at the same time, a lot of stagnation, just as you called. And as a coach, sometimes you just want to take advantage of that opportunity.
So Bacon subbing in and finds Beck, kind of a cross-field throw. Poyer calling for it. She is wide open on the near sideline. Back to Daly, and we still have a lot of space back here. Bacon comes back to fill a little bit. Looks like a pick was called. Pretty congested are the cutters right in the side of the sideline nearest to the camera here. So I'm not surprised to see that. Bacon tapping it back in. Nice round throw to find Mextroth right on the sideline.
We had previously seen that kind of elevator pass go to ground, so nice to see Bacon putting enough height on it that it gets to their intended receiver. Wow.
Oh, and Bacon was making upline cut. Looks like that's Joe Maida, who went down. Looks like she's moving okay, getting off the field. It's always kind of scary to see non-contact injuries, and so you just hope that everybody's all right.
I'll admit I'm of two minds. One, yes, absolutely scary because so much can go wrong. At the same time, Bacon just with the shake and bake. Like
it's literally in her name.
Her completely almost out of her cleats.
She is known to do that. Byers looking for Beck, but finds Mextroth instead. Now Bacon with the big backhand rip. Poyer with miles of space. Defender is gaining, but Harnage is not able to get there. Poyer looking for some help. Finding maybe a reset to Mextroth, and then immediately streaks up line. And a rare mistake from Mextroth, turfing it into the ground. That is certainly one that they'll want back, but then Surge gives them back again. Wow, lots of action here, Kelsey.
I want to see more poise. Those were forced throws into small spaces. And while I am thankful, and I'll give credit to Strike for pulling this one in, Mextroth for making the big play, that was so rushed and chaotic. There should be much more poise, and quite frankly, there should be much more space around the thrower.
Yeah, that score was a lucky one too, but not a particularly good-looking throw. And you got Mextroth there on the receiving end to make a great dive, but not what we typically see on this level. We're going to see a couple replays from this point as I believe Surge calls timeout after giving up another break. Great block there from Hendrickson. It actually looks like Hart may have caught it and then lost rotation. Didn't call a foul. There's the injury from Maida. Hopefully she's okay. And then Poyer maybe stall count getting high. Finding Mextroth. Mextroth goes for the backhand on the forehand side, just pushed right down into the ground.
And players will sometimes do that because it's quicker than flipping your grip over. Incredible effort there from Mextroth. But the challenge is that it's not as natural a throw in that space, especially stepping out like that.
Yep.
It's such a low release, and it's a throw that wants to sink down, not rise.
Yeah, and Anna Harnage is going to want that one back with the disc right on the end zone. You got 70 yards to go, but
you could see the body language.
You could see that frustration. I mean, similarly to other plays we've seen, we've all been there, and that one resulted in the strike point. So hopefully have a little bit more cleanliness, some better choices in the next few points here.
Well, and remember, Philadelphia doesn't have the luxury of a deep roster. They have a
excellent, like high quality roster, but so many of those key pieces, Bova, Astrid, Lang, McKenna, out today for injury or other reasons. And so when they're shorthanded and they're making mistakes, it kind of increases the mental lift, right? Of putting those behind, leaving them behind you, not letting it affect play, because you don't have as many playmakers out there to go like carve you out of that space. They're down right now.
Certainly.
To a team that I think they coming into this, they would have been pretty confident they could be.
Yeah. Monshine with the pull. To note here that once Milligan catches the disc here, we have about 25 seconds left in the quarter. Whoever is retaining possession when that clock expires gets to finish their possession, so they either score or they turn it over, and then the quarter ends. So Surge is going to want to do their best to keep possession for the next 11 seconds here and not give Strike a chance to end the quarter. So Maroon finds K-Spa. K-Spa up to Hart. If you want to, again, holster.
Mere seconds.
Hart looking for Morse, and Morse catches it in that very back end zone. Time expired while the disc was in the air, so I believe that is the end of the quarter.
It's good they got the release off in time before the clock went. That's brutal, and I have to say I'm flat mark there. You don't want that throw to go off. Like, to me, it's less about is the defense there and more just preventing the throw in general. You want to make it the most difficult possible. And I'd say this is the second time I've seen that from Strike of like, I'd like a little bit more situational awareness, or, you know, maybe that's a team system and process in those dangerous times, in these end of quarter situations. That needs to be recognition. It needs to be automatic. Seal it, make it a more difficult shot.
Yeah, well, certainly some things to talk about in this break between the first and second quarters here. We're going to take a quick break ourselves, and we will see you back here for the second quarter. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, fans of the Minnesota Strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
Welcome back, folks. We're about to start our second quarter here at Seafoam Stadium, Minnesota Strike versus Philly Surge. We want to do a quick shout out today for the Premier Ultimate League.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today.
Absolutely. Wanting to continue seeing beautiful games like this, high-level stuff from both teams. Something that we didn't talk about yet and that we heard about from coaches is that there's actually a lot of overlap between the players on both of these teams, which you may not expect from teams that come from different parts of the country. But there are at least 3 players here today. Would have been a 4th had Lindsay McKenna been able to make the trip, that played in college together. A few teams players from different teams that have played on nationals level teams. Chelsea Semper, again, having played on Minnesota before, now playing on Philly. So lots of knowledge of each other here.
Yeah, and it changes the dynamic. One, it I think helps the game if it develops an intensity of players who can call on that relationship to kind of sort through things. There's that added element of trust. But to the knowledge of tendencies and preferences of players, it can help elevate the game defensively.
Absolutely. So Strike starting off on offense here. Looks like a foot block potentially, or otherwise just an odd throw, but Johnson McKee is able to clean it up. Poyer has the disc on the far sideline. And just a little out of the reach of Beck. So that is a Strike turnover. Semper is picking it up.
Really tough to have that backfield turn, but I do think Strike did a good job of getting back on defense. Surge a little slower, not the fast break that we've seen before previously, but they're moving the disc well.
Alvey over to Moeller, and Moeller's throw a little too far. And again, I think we're seeing a little bit of fatigue. Second quarter here. That's a throw I think we would expect Moeller to complete.
Yeah, and that might be a real big red flag. If we're showing fatigue here in the second quarter, what do the third and fourth look like? Especially, we've talked about the heat. Is that an element that's already coming into play?
Mextroth shooting a high throw here for Byers. Byers is marked by Rao, and Sky's there.
Incredible body there by Byers. And then the shot up the line to Bacon.
Never gets old, does it?
It never gets old, and that duo has connected so many times. I will say often it's Bacon to Byers, but I'll take the other way just as much. Byers, though, the approach is what I want you to watch as we get this replay. So the shot's up, and watch Byers sit on the back hip, tuck under, take the inside positioning, and then go up with authority, just claiming the space that she wanted.
Yeah. Looks like Rao stumbling a little bit there while getting into position. No contact meriting a foul call or anything, but certainly Byers knows how to find and command that space so no one else is getting in the way.
And if I'm Byers, I'd like that back hip for a second, waiting to see if the disc would cut over, in which case she would have been in the better positioning to make that adjustment. Once she recognizes it's not, goes in, takes the inside, and just goes up and takes that disc down.
And pumped up afterwards. A nice decision finding Bacon, who wasn't exactly open when the throw went up, but caught her defender kind of face guarding, not looking at the disc, and so was able to do a quick juke, strike into that upline space, and Byers was able to find her pretty easy.
Minnesota now has taken about 3 different shots to that one corner. At like 5 yards of the end zone.
That has been their favorite part of the field today.
So I'm going to call out my happy place. I'd love to see them swing more. Pressure from Cook, though.
Again, this matchup that we've heard so much about, Maroon and Cook. High throw. Ping-pongs off a few different people, and Serenity eventually knocks it down. So that's a Strike turnover, or a Surge turnover. Strike with the possession now. Rupp finding Regan, who elevates for the grab. And Regan looks like throws it directly to Surge. So that is another turnover. Emily Shields with the catch grab back to Linda Morse.
Yeah, I think Regan was shooting for the end zone and Serenity was trying to shake and come under. So that might just be players that haven't played enough together to know what they're looking for.
Hendrickson on defense got a hand on that throw before, but Walsh was able to grab it. Not that one, unfortunately. Fireside Ostergaard picks it up. Looks like a call of some kind, maybe a pick. Travel, potentially. Fireside Ostergaard was holding up the pick signs, but now Walsh is pointing to a different place. So,
I liked Ostergaard's big fake to the break side of the field. The defense then surged that way, and it gave her a really open reset. Obviously, stoppage allows defense to reposition. But check this wide open cut by Serenity.
Potentially because of a pick again. There, with all the players sort of rushing into the end zone, it can definitely set up for some clogging. Folks are pretty close to each other, as we can see in this
Rebecca,
stack.
If I had a telestrator right now, I would be able to circle 9 players on the field in a very small movement.
We're hearing that we'll get a telestrator next year, so keep on watching, folks.
We can hope. We can live in hope.
All right, Hendrickson in the backfield here, marked by Morse. Throw is over a Fireside Ostergaard, unfortunately. That is a throw. We could see a huge layout from Ellie someday, but today is not that day. Downfield to Morse right on the sideline. Philly with the defense back. A little bit more of a straight-up mark there, which we pointed out earlier.
I think the recognition of Morse as a potential downfield player, but just forcing this Surge team to look back and backfield.
Milligan with a nice around to continue up to Morse, and Morse is launching this backhand, looking for Maroon. Maroon and Rupp both jockeying, and Rupp is able to get the block. I'm sorry, that's not Grace Maroon, that's K-Spa. So Rupp picks it back up, finds Serenity in the middle of the field. Serenity continues on to that far side to Jane Cook.
I want to shout out Caligu Spolaris, who was the intended target for that shot. Well traveled, and I think that if it doesn't sit so high, but look at that play by Serenity.
Great layout from Serenity, showing us everything she can do after we watched her in the college season. Awesome to see her on this level. Great layout from Serenity, and that's another break for Strike.
A break, and we can't call it a bookends, folks, because there was some change of possession back and forth. But remember, Serenity was involved. Look here, gets the tip. Rupp is there to finish it. And so you're seeing this level of intensity from this Strike team. I'd love to see them capitalize a little sooner, but you can see why they were flat marking Morse. Morse airs it out. It just hangs a little too much. And we had talked about the beginning of this game, no wind. The players warmed up. It was in a no-wind stadium. And we're starting to see some gusts where the direction that throw was going was upwind. That throw that we're seeing Serenity dive for is now a downwind throw. And so it is going to change the game. Who can adjust first?
Absolutely.
Incredible effort by Frankie Serenity.
Great form there. Well, I mean, this is exciting for us to watch the Strike really shine in this environment. Hopefully they'll keep up the pressure, but Surge with another chance to put in a hold. Hopefully they can get this hold in and sort of right the ship a little bit on offense. We've got Maida. Good to see her back on the field. Seems like that injury was not too serious, but that is an overthrow. Can't find Semper. Julia Chucks Hill is picking up the disc. Finds the quick around. Looking for Monshine. Some nice pressure there from Moeller on Strike and not able to connect.
Yeah,
sorry,
I agree.
on Surge.
I think the pressure from Moeller caused Monshine to go up sooner. Obviously the throw high, but if Monshine's able to just run it down, I think possession stays.
Yep. We've got Anna Harnage with the disc heading up to Brand. Brand looking for Semper. Big backhand fakes from Semper.
Semper looks so poised in the red zone.
And Semper finds Harnage for the Philly score. That's going to feel good.
You know, and in general, I've liked Philly's approach to red zone. Semper staying so patient, and you can see players clearing to the middle, leaving the lanes open, cutting off the back, and that cut so much separation from Hendrickson there. Made it a really easy choice. Interesting also in how far off the mark was, and Hilton unable to really put pressure, get a hand in front of that. It's the catch-22, right? You guard all the players in the end zone first. You work backwards out from there. But there wasn't enough pressure on the thrower, and that one looked easy for Surge.
Yep. Reminiscent of the point we had earlier where Poyer was able to be pretty much wide open on that side of the end zone. Would love to see a little bit more defensive pressure on both sides when the teams are in the end zone.
What do you think about a bracket on both ends, Rebecca?
I think that's a really good idea. The fact of the matter is like how much time do teams have to get it set up? Is it something you talk about ahead of time? Or do you have enough, is there a timeout that you can set it up? Because sometimes that can be hard to just pull out. But I do think it would be a good idea now that we've seen that twice. All right, so Harnage out there again, stopping the pull from rolling. Louise Beck picks up for Strike. Alfano doing a great job shutting down Bacon, and that throw is going to float over Strike players downfield, and that is a quick turnover from Strike. Moeller from Surge picking up.
Rachel Alfano, one of the many players on this team that has played for Philadelphia AMP, a team that has such a history of performance in the club division at nationals. Just a lot of
Nice
top-level
grab from
experience.
Semper. A lot of experience at nationals, but that didn't include 2024.
No,
so
it did
some of these
not.
players are really kind of ready for the level of play that they are used to at that national level and getting it through PUL. So that is a turnover from Surge. Looks like maybe a stoppage, potentially a timeout call. Players are leaving the field.
And maybe a little bit of frustration there from Strike. They've been missing on some of their deep looks. And we talked about that wind gusting, dying down. It's really fickle right now. So can they dial in and connect on these opportunities? I'll say on the one hand, what it does for, the Strike defense and now the Surge defense is it keeps the offense on the field and makes them really having to work harder. But we are seeing this just on both teams, effectiveness of the defense to pressure the O.
Mm-hmm. That last turnover there was from Surge. So the question will be, when did we call timeout? It looks like Surge will retain possession.
While we have this brief stoppage, another shout out to a donor. Our Northwestern Health Sciences University people come first. In the classroom, the clinics, and the hallways. Learn more about their colleges, programs, and online courses at www.nwhealth.edu.
So Surge starting with the disc right around the 30-yard line, setting up their offense. Strike then setting up defense. Looks like a potential isolation play for Grace Maroon. Again, Cook is taking that matchup, so this should be fun to see. I'm wondering if it's going to be something with Maroon clearing out to allow Hiranet to come under. Looks like straight break and then deep. Hendrickson peels off to help, but Maroon is able to jump up and grab that in the 2-on-1 space. Pretty impressive. Looking for help, Maroon is. Finding Walsh. Walsh back to Maroon. A little bit of traffic there, but able to clear out. Finding Hart. And Hart up to Hiranet. And that is a break for Surge.
A break. What a silky smooth sequence, Rebecca.
Absolutely.
That shot up. Grace Maroon, the athleticism and the way that she owns the air. You can see the acceleration here. Cook hot on her heels, goes up with confidence, and then immediately scanning the field, looking around. Dish the disc, got it again, and you'll see just this effective swing, 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 attacking kind of that downhill corner. This was beautifully played.
Yeah, I mean, that's a break. This Philly team, I'd love to see a little more firepower, a little more excitement from scoring that break point. We're back to a tied game, and Philly, has looked a little tired, a little down in this quarter. So let's kind of see some hype after scoring that break.
And that could be, we've talked about heat, that could be fatigue. They're playing really, really tight lines by necessity. But I agree with you, and I wonder, are they missing their hype people and those top players that we've named who are absent? Like, where does that spirit and heart come from? We're seeing execution, and they are fighting their way back into this game, but does it feel like it? Are they winning the energy on the field?
Right. Maida with the pull. See if Surge can sort of build on this momentum and get another break. That would really break it open here, kind of with energy coming back in their direction. We've got Bacon over to Daly, up to Poyer. Matchup to watch here, Byers versus Morse. That throw sailing over the head of Beck. Byers and Morse played together in college at Westchester University, I believe. So they know each other pretty well. So that should be fun to watch.
Something to note, that's the second time that Louise Beck has been overthrown in this set. They need to have these swings dialed in. Again, we talked about a little bit of the gusting wind.
Oof.
But right now, Surge is really owning these reset lanes.
Nice away throw to Alfano. Alfano has loads of space and finds Maida. Maida with another away throw. And Harnage has all the time in the world to track that one down. So that's a nice celebration there, seeing the Surge pump up a little bit.
Double break for Philadelphia. You do see a little bit of that energy. And it's, for me, how does the Strike respond? They were up 2. Now they're down. This has been a 3-point run for Philadelphia. Not seeing a timeout, and that could be confidence. Like, game within 1 is still very, very close, Rebecca. But I also need to see a hold here. I want to see, looks like we're getting possibly this rebound line, but yeah. Mextroff completely peeling off
Yeah.
because that throw and cut was so well executed.
Great vision from Maida to see that developing. Really nobody else could possibly get to that throw, so that's really awesome to see. I will point out that Strike calling a timeout gives Surge more time to rest, and they, as we've said, have a pretty small group here, so maybe part of it is wanting to not allow them more time to get water and rest, so maybe they're playing a little bit of strategic defense there.
I could absolutely see that from the Strike coaches. But, if you're talking, strategy and coaching, you have to shout out Dre DeSabato for this Philadelphia Surge team. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a leader or coach with more experience and ability to in-game adjust. And, something that I haven't seen, we heard that we might be seeing some zone looks from the Strike team. And we're definitely seeing a little bit of Poach D.
Oof. Walby is pinned to the sideline, has no choice but to throw a risky throw around. That's a great block from K-Spa. Johnson McKee not quite able to get there.
Just pounces on that lane.
I was going to say, we still don't see K-Spa back on our screen until right now, so she was hanging out down there in the end zone space, the deep space.
And so that's a big flick. I'd love to see a hammer there. I think you throw a different edge. It's on the opposite shoulder, and I don't think the defense gets there in time. It's close, but I don't think they get there in time.
Some bodies falling down on the far side of the field. Looks like Cook is calling a timeout, or calling a foul, appreciate the hand signals. It's really hard as the offense player, as Johnson McKee there, when you are kind of standing there, the disc is coming towards you, but then the defender is sprinting towards you. They have all that momentum to jump up and knock it down, which is exactly what happened. And so that's a really good play from K-Spa for Surge. Shields with the disc here. Finds Maroon over to Moeller. Moeller finding Shields in that upline spot, and that is yet another break for Surge. They are in it again. That is 4 points in a row.
4 breaks in a row. The foot speed on Shields. Holy cow. Just the acceleration. Watch this again. You see the pressure. That's a good active mark, and the D just coming through. Fully safe play.
And the huge smile, too. You know that's got to feel good.
It looked close from this vantage, and we got the second angle. You could see that it wasn't. But this cut coming from completely across field, out to space, the acceleration and separation was really phenomenal.
That's got to be tough for Strike when we're talking about energy, morale. You can't even get one throw off. Props to the PUL for pinning them right on the sideline, and for the defense to make that first look really, really difficult. But they're not really able to get anywhere.
Well, and we were just talking about adjustments. So one of the things that made that difficult was the poach into that underspace, the really active lane, and then the poach sitting under, making, the inside throws. Remember, we've got gusts, so anything that's thrown up is going to hang or catch an edge. If that's the case, I'd love to see a play call by the Strike of maybe a flood play, like clean out that lane, especially if it's another pin to the sideline.
Here we go again.
But I love that they're moving the disc quickly to the middle of the field.
Yep, Beck able to pick that up and get to Daly in the center pretty quickly. Here's Byers with loads of space. Byers back to Daly. Lots of space here between the handlers and the cutters, it looks like. So most of these throws have been going between the handler sets so far. Daly with an inside throw to Poyer, able to reach down and snag that one. And Poyer finds Bacon. Bacon with the big huck, looking for Mextroth. Mextroth not quite able to pull the trigger. That's just a little bit too far.
And I'll call out, that's a play I've seen Mextroth make before. Part of this might be a decision to play the long game because a dive that aggressive bid could take her out for the next point or two. But just too much heat.
Well, and she gets it right back. A run-through block on Rao.
Thought it was going to be a run-through catch initially.
Yeah, it looked like she may have
you
caught
saw the
it.
Same thing?
Maybe took a step and then let go, but clearly that's not what occurred. Daly picks up and finds Mextroth, looking for that away shot. She'll throw that every time. Great 7 from Poyer, who grabs it in the big celebration.
I love that cut. I love that throw, and Poyer knew it was coming. And Mextroth knew that Poyer was going to cut for it. That is chemistry, folks.
Absolutely. Those two have both played on Dragon Thrust for a number of years together. Also a layout clap catch, which we don't see that often. Players able to secure it while diving.
Dragon Thrust, of course, the Minneapolis local club mixed team that's had several deep runs into their bracket at Club Nationals in October. Again, one of the beautiful things about Pro, we've got both elite mixed and elite women's here in these teams competing together, and we get to see that crossing of the two divisions here at this Pro level.
Yeah, we got another good look at that run through D from Mextra. It doesn't look like she retained possession, sort of bobbled it a little bit, and then eventually it hit the ground. So great sequence there from Strike. That is a hold, so good to put that one in and now send your D-line out. Ellie Fireside Ostergaard getting ready to pull. Would love to see a flashy play from them. We all know they're capable of it.
Well, we've seen some dynamite plays from Fireside Ostergaard.
That pull sails out of bounds, so Surge will be able to start with it in the center of the field pretty far down. Looks like it went out somewhat early, maybe around the 41-yard line or so. Ellie Fireside Ostergaard before the game informed us that she is wearing 3 pairs of pants today. So hopefully those are adding even more speed to an already extremely speedy player.
That sounds so hot.
It really does. It really does. But, you know, if it works,
we're in the shade up in the booth, folks. Like, we get a little bit of breeze, but not much of one. But it has got to be broiling down there on the field. And we're not even in summer yet.
And I'm not even running. All right, so we are seeing something a little funky on the field. Some zone for the first time from Strike, as promised. Nice toe in from Morse, keeping it in bounds. What are we seeing here from this zone, Kelsey?
So it's a 3-person on the sideline, but like a full 4-person cup. So they've got a mark who's marking way behind, really sealing off the reset. And then 3 players that are out into the lanes, but collapsing in as cutters come into that space.
And Maroon, or Case, well, that is the second time I've mixed them up. I was not able to dig that one out from the ground. So we've got Monshine picking up. Monshine taking more of a backfield role in the 2 games that I've watched at home this season, which is she's doing a great job. Not the space that I typically would imagine her in. Cook with the disc here in the backfield, looking for some help. Finds Fireside Ostergaard, who continues on to Monshine.
Big red zone opportunity here for Strike. They're doing a good job moving the disc across the field. But the second time we've seen that just turf into the end zone by the Strike team, this is going to be frustrating to walk back because these are self-made errors. Mm-hmm. These are things that are entirely within their control.
Yep, that disc just getting pushed into the ground. Looking for Randall, but not quite enough juice there. Strike was looking pretty patient in that end zone set, so that's good to see. Just those execution errors are tough to stomach. Here's Maroon over to Milligan. Milligan finding Morse right over the outstretched hands of Hill. Striker back into this zony look that we saw on the last possession. Walsh with the disc on the sideline. Milligan crashing into the cup. Finds the around to Maroon. Up to Linda Morse.
So one of the questions I had, Rebecca, with kind of this zone style set was, does it do enough to push Surge, or do they just get too much rest? One of the risks, though, as time expires is, since the time is out, it's only the single possession. So in that way, the defense on Strike gets that win, as it were, kind of end of quarter situation. Surge had to hold possession in order to keep the fight. They don't get another shot at it.
Yeah, that is true. That being said, I believe Surge is starting off on offense again in the third quarter, so it would have been really nice for Minnesota to break again to tie the game, start kind of all anew. But don't get that one. So we are going to take a quick break here during halftime. We will see you on the other side for quarter 3.
fans of the Minnesota strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
All right, folks, we are back during halftime break. Teams taking a little time to recuperate, rest, and strategize before the second half. We have our reporter Laura Osterlund down on the field with Minnesota Strike coach Genghis Phillip to get some insight onto how Strike is doing in this half. Take it away, Laura.
Genghis, it's been a half. What has Strike been doing well so far this half?
Yeah, we're playing without any fear, which is one of those things that, like, sometimes when you're at home, we just came off a doubleheader weekend in our last set of games, you're going to play really tight and, like, two within yourself. And we're trusting each other. One of the things that the team's really focused on in the past couple of weeks is trusting each other, trusting our systems, and having fun playing this game we love. And the team's doing that. And you're seeing that in explosive offensive plays, aggressive layouts, really fun stuff for the fans and fun stuff for us. It gets us psyched to see it. So I think that's some of the best stuff we're doing on offense and defense.
So we're down one. Yeah, not a big gap, but still enough room for improvement. What adjustments are you going to make for the second half?
So you saw at the end there, hopefully nobody's watching, we moved to a little bit of zone. And so you'll probably see a couple more zone looks. Really aggressive hunting zones, though, not like quash it, try to kill time zones. We've got some stuff in our playbook that we really want to be running to try to get us the ball quick so that we can then turn that into a score. I know we had a little bit of a heartbreaker there on the end, but I will take those plays 100 times out of 100. Our players will hit that execution.
All right, and there you have it. Back to you in the booth.
Thanks so much, Laura. Great to hear a little bit from Strike coaching about some strategy as we head into the second half here. Pretty close game, good competition. Philly has a 1-goal lead right now. This is certainly a different vibe than the last game Kelsey and I commentated together when Strike took on New York Gridlock here at Seafoam. Kelsey, what are you seeing from these two teams? What are some things you think that each team could change, adjust a little bit as we head into quarter three?
I think both teams are showing high defensive intensity, which I have to say I prefer. Like, and maybe this is me coming from years of coaching for Winchell, but like I would rather have gritty defense instead of just perfect, clean offense. From a broadcasting perspective, I think it brings the drama. Like, I really enjoy it so much more. And we've seen that both defenses being able to strike hard. We've seen some big athletic plays. To me, though, some of it's about the adjustment. Both offenses need to clean up, and both defenses have lost opportunities where they had the possession, had shots on goal, and these are some execution errors that we're seeing. Like, again, incredible athletic plays. We saw that bid from Mextroff, incredible effort to make it. Appreciation to our observer, Joey, signaling in there, so we have that good perspective. But we are seeing just that higher percentage of maybe execution errors than both of these teams would really want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think cleaning things up a little bit. I think there have been some really good plays, this grab by Byers being one of them. But I think, a little more of that like fiery excitement would be awesome for us to see. But that being said, this has been a really good game. Two seemingly pretty equally matched teams today, fighting it out and back and forth sort of action. So we are really excited to have Surge making the trip. As we said, a lot of teams sort of make this weekend-long trip to visit both Strike in Minnesota and the Monarchs in Milwaukee the day after. So it's not a short trip to make, and Surge, just like Gridlock, kind of making that trip out. So a few more highlights here. We're going to send it out to another break as we see K-Spar running through on that disc one more time. Awesome block, and we'll catch you on the other side here.
fans of the Minnesota Strike, if you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
Welcome back, folks, to Seafoam Stadium, where we are getting ready to start up this third quarter. Want to take a moment to highlight a few of our sponsors here.
If you are enjoying today's stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all donations go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you high-quality live streams like this one today. Thank you for supporting the Strike. And the Strike is also blessed to be supported by the Black Heart of St. Paul. It is a queer soccer bar in the heart of Midway, a bar that brings people together for a drink, drag, or an ultimate watch party. The Black Heart of St. Paul is also the official post-game party location for all Minnesota Strike home games. Join us after the game.
And a third shout out, check out a bar of their own in South Minneapolis, the Midwest's first sports bar to exclusively show women's sports, including the away games for your Minnesota Strike. Awesome spot over the river in Seward. Great place to watch the away games streamed on YouTube.
Everyone watches women's sports.
They sure do. All right, so gearing up here for the second half. As we said, it looks like Strike is going to be pulling to start off this quarter, so they're going to want to put some defensive pressure on, potentially generate a break, tie this game back up. On the Surge's side, I think they're looking to have a nice, clean hold. No drama, no issues, just punch it in. We see Walsh, Morse, Hart, Shields, Maroon, Piernet, and Milligan out there, so it's a kind of power line trying to kind of keep things chill, keep things relaxed, punch in a goal.
You say chill, I say bring the fire. You know, in some ways, after being down 2 to Strike, that they were able to fight back on that 4-point swing, I think they'd love to keep Strike on their heels. And I think a good way of doing that is kind of load up a line, get the hold, and then get their defense back out there. Just keep pouring on the pressure. Again, personal opinion, but I really think both of these teams have been just out and swinging and winning from their defensive pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree from a commentator's perspective. Would love to see some of that fire too. So nice dance moves there from Maddie Lander.
DJ is out and swinging tonight here at the Fields. We've got a crowd. They're enjoying the shade as the sun sets to the west of us here at Seafoam Stadium. It's a beautiful one.
Absolutely. Second home game of the season. First one was really nice weather too. Now that we're sort of past Memorial Day, it is fully summer here in Minnesota, so we've got a really beautiful day. Lots of folks out here enjoying it. It's also player sponsorship day, so you see a lot of folks wearing those blue and yellow and black jerseys in the crowd to hype up their team. So Walby with the pull, nice and floaty, giving defense lots of time to set up, and Fireside Ostergaard is the first one down. Milligan picks up the disc here in the center of the field.
You saw the pressure from Fireside Ostergaard. I think that first cut was supposed to be resulting in a throw, instead the clear, and Philadelphia just making quick moves down the field.
Here back to Walsh, and Walsh finds Shields. Good pressure from Rupp. Looks like there was a call downfield. I think a pick call from George potentially from LaFrance. Morse with the disc about 20 yards out of the end zone here. And we see that away shot, very similar shot that we saw at the end of the first quarter, but the opposite connection. Morse to Hart this time rather than Hart to Morris. And great kick spike from Hart.
Hart showed such good awareness, keeping that foot in. And you see that celebration, the kick spike. We're not seeing, again, the huge reaction, the big hype. Again, maybe just having to play within themselves, but this was a gorgeous shot. Athletic play by Hart.
Great footage from our camera, literally right in front of her, able to see, yep.
Love it.
Do you think this is another situation, Kelsey, where Rupp should have maybe put on a flatter mark? We were talking about that earlier.
I would love to see that. Again, we heard Coach Genghis Phillips talking about systems. If it's within their system to flat there, perhaps. I really, from what I've seen within the club scene, but also in today's game, more so someone who you need to be aware of their throwing capacity. And to me, I would want to take away those options. Again, if it's within the called defensive scheme, you know, that's kind of the question that we have of we see what we see, but what was called on the field. Personal opinion, I'd love it taken away.
Maida there with the pull from Surge. I'm just realizing that both of these teams have lightning bolt emblems on their jerseys, so that's something they have in common. Other than all of the Team USA World Games teams players.
Completely unmarked Steph Woods. I'm curious if they were running kind of a snake in the grass downfield with Moeller.
We did see that at College Nationals last weekend. Beck with the disc in the middle of the field finds Bacon on the around, and Bacon immediately continues. Nice read from Poyer, able to track that and not letting Semper get in the way.
Key red zone opportunity here for Strike. They need to punch this one in. Again, Surge has just been in control for most of the last 6 to 7 minutes.
Daly finds Mextroth just skating right down the line, able to toe it in for the Strike goal.
Mextroth has been pivotal for this Strike team, coming up big on several occasions. Are we at 3 goals now for Mextroth?
2 goals, 1 assist so far.
So 3 scores in which Mextroth has been involved, not to mention the blocks and pressure in getting the disc back. This was a good hold for Strike. We've seen now those kind of back-to-back hold looks by each team. Which defense can ramp up the pressure that we saw in the first half?
Absolutely. Two pretty, like we were saying, chill holds. So are we going to see some fire? Are we going to see some excitement, which I agree with you often is generated by a defensive block with some switching it up a little bit. So let's see if we can make that happen in this next point. Again, Strike trailing by those 2 or 1 break at this point, wanting or no, there should be 2 breaks actually, wanting to put back that tie game and get a little bit closer here.
Yeah, a 1-point game, quite frankly, is nothing, but how closely this game has been played. We've seen some swings, we've seen some momentum change. Can Strike claim that momentum back, or does Surge just own it here for the rest of the game? We've still got a lot of game left to play.
It looks like that pull may have landed just out of bounds. Milligan was going to pick it up on the sideline, and Walsh instead walking over to pick it up and move it to the center of the field. Walsh marked by Monshine, tapping the disc in, and we have another zone here from the Strike. Looks fairly similar to the play that we saw last time they threw this zone.
Again, you're seeing kind of a chaser and then a wall of 3. So one person taking the mark, really trying to inhibit the resets, and then 3 downfield just taking away the lanes. From that, 2 further in a second wall, and then a deep. Interesting, though, in that Surge is keeping 2 deep options really far out to the sidelines, making Regan, in this case, having to choose.
Not surprising to see Grace Maroon really active in this zone. When I watched UPenn at Nationals, she was just instrumental in marching the disc down the field against all kind of zones.
Shot goes up.
Milligan is looking for Shields. She had 2 options, go with K-Spot and Shields. Looks like there was some contact. Foul is called. Randall looking like she wishes she didn't bid there. Yeah, not the best.
And Rebecca, that's such a tough thing, too. I'm not sure that Randall knew Shields was coming in. But I think at this last point gets it. And so that's where I would have loved to see the pull-up. You could see the concern from Randall. Knows it wasn't a great play. Shields just accelerating into that space. That's a really tough one. That's definitely a foul, no contest. The question is, was it a dangerous play?
Yeah, and it's hard to tell from the replay. It looks like Randall may have hit her head as well, potentially on Shields' leg. So all we want really is for folks to be safe after a game. So glad everybody's on their 2 game.
concussions are a real part of the game, something that players have to be aware of. And we are seeing it signaled a goal, so a key hold for Philadelphia. They are up 2. Again, this was a hold for them. Yeah, with concussions, though, it's so difficult because concussions stack on each other. It's not, like some other injuries where you heal it, it goes away. It's as if it was never there. That is not the case with concussions, and we're seeing that in Kit Astron on this Philadelphia Surge team, out due to concussions, not her first. And each time just can be quite a bit severe. So, again, safety of players is key. Love the intensity that Randall went out that. Don't love the finish. That's a space where you need to pull up. Had beat her player defensively. And you can see K-Spot pulling up. Yeah, that's got to be a pull-up as well.
Yeah. Yep. Well, everyone seems to be okay as we kind of calm down from that moment.
And as always, we have the benefit of hindsight and replay.
Yep.
That is, we can judge from our lofty perch, but we know hindsight, replay. It's so tough in those moments to make those decisions, but hopefully, again, that's what things like film study and practice and reviewing that can help refine those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's played Ultimate for a long time knows the feeling of, oh, shoot, I should not have made that play. And you always have that thought right after it's happened. So happens to all of us. Most important that everybody's all right. Moeller with the big pull, floaty and with distance. Bacon has to reach up to grab it. That gave us a little bit of a scare.
I didn't take an intake breath, but I really wanted to.
Johnson McKee finding Mexstroth. Daly with the big backhand huck, looking for both Byers and Beck. Who's going to get to it first? Beck finds the disc. That's a nice score from Louise Beck.
You could see Louise Beck watching Byers, watching the disc, assessing the defense. Should she attack? Should she give the space? And as the disc continues to cut over, I think did a good job of being aggressive. That disc could have gone to the ground. And instead, it's a clean hold for the strike. Take a look at this again. You can see Beck in the area, sees Byers. Defense can't find it, was adjusting perhaps. And I love Semper too making that safe play. Could have been a lot more contact there. Instead goes up cleanly. Watch this again. Check, check, check. Both in this space, but Beck goes up strong, makes the play.
Yeah, and that disc was tailing over towards the sideline, so Beck going for that disc instead of Byers was certainly the right choice.
It's the better play angle.
Absolutely. And, the worst nightmare is when you have two players, either of whom would catch it, and they don't communicate, and so then no one catches it, and it hits the ground. We've all had that heartbreak before, so great to see that Beck and Byers able to communicate and get the goal. And it does look like there was a card given to Randall on that previous play with that collision. Just going back to that briefly, got the quick update. So
answers our question on the dangerous play.
Absolutely. All right. So once again, strike pulling. Courtney Walby getting ready to pull here for a strike. See if they can punch in some pressure on the defense. A great floaty pull, giving strike time to set up on the second pass here. Looks like back to person potentially. Maroon with the big huck downfield. LaFrance is deeper than her person, but Hiranet is able to grab it.
I am astounded that got caught. You saw the double pump by Maroon. I don't think she wanted, maybe really wanted to send that huck, but the cutter was coming in. Instead of just hanging up, is able to make this play. But the defender just getting kind of her hips pushed out from under her. I'm curious if this will be called an offensive foul.
It looks like LaFrance is calling a foul. Whether it will be upheld is the question. The green shirts observers getting involved. Looks like both players are giving their piece, and then they can decide if they want to get a ruling from the observer. We don't see offensive fouls called that frequently, Kelsey, so we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, it is very unusual. I could see the argument for it. I don't think it's extremely clear cut. Let's take one more look.
It looks like Hiranet is going straight up for that disc. I didn't see a whole ton of, I don't know if she's sure either with that shrug. Does look like the disc is going back to Maroon, so leaving it as a foul contest.
And again, I like this option. It's not clear cut. We have the benefit of replay. We don't see, there's obviously contact. It obviously takes the defender off her line. Probably would have given that to the offense, but instead, by going back, Philly retains possession.
Milligan with the disc here, looking for a reset, needing some help.
Shut down defense, and they have to bail out at the last second.
And they do have K-Spa streaking deep, and they are able to come down with it. That is a great box out and body and grab from K-Spa.
Serenity was fighting for that space. But Caligou Spolaris just went up so strong. And again, that's a bailout. That's a last second. But Surge, with the awareness, no stall count is getting high, has players flood to that space.
Yep.
And are actively seeking that. That is really good game awareness to know that your thrower is going to make a playable option.
And Caligou Spolaris did have some separation here, as we can see. So if that throw had been even a little further, there's still a lot of end zone space here. I think that would have been an even easier score. Luckily, they're able to make that grab even with the bodying from defense.
Yeah, Serenity gave it a fight, and that is like that level of physicality that I want to see. Really jockeying for that space, putting good pressure on. And we are seeing, I think, just increased athleticism, increased physical fitness from players as the game progresses over, I'm hearkening back, I'll say it, 2 decades to when I played in college, of just a complete different expectations in terms of physical fitness and, lifting and track workouts. Just there wasn't the same across the field expectation, as I know many of these players are working on strength that both allows them to play at a higher level and stay more physically healthy and avoid injury.
Daly finding Poyer, who is finding Byers right away. Byers is going to boost it, looking for Steph Wood. She's got someone behind her, and maybe that pressure with Harnage right behind her caused a lapse of concentration. So that is a turn.
Tip disc gets scooped up by Semper, and Surge is off to the races with a shot of their own.
Maida looking for Alfano. Byers right there, and Byers elevates for the block. She has so much vertical, so it's just straps in right after that.
I love this return, and you can hear the crowd getting involved. Crowd has been pretty quiet so far this game. Not at all like that first game against Gridlock. Kind of want someone on the front of the stands just like really getting people loud.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that's something that could get Strike back into this game? They're down 2.
Potentially. That throw from Byers a little bit too high for Wood, not able to toe it in on the sideline.
Second time this point that they have overshot on Wood. Again, we're seeing wind gusting, this time in more of a crossfield angle, so the wind continues to change.
Maida with the disc. She's put up a bunch of hucks in this game. She finds Semper on the under. Semper peels off the streaking upline cut, and then Moeller looking for Carnage and finds it right in that corner once again and flashes bookends.
That was incredible precision from Moeller. 2 defenders sandwiching that space, sets it in just right.
Yep,
For
absolutely.
a cutting receiver. That was gorgeous. And that's such a narrow window, too.
And that is Harnage's 4th goal of the game. So somewhat
cow.
quietly having a pretty stellar offensive game today. We see that first turn. Again, Wood just turns her head slightly to see the defender behind her, loses concentration. Great block here from Byers, just elevating over Alfano to get that block.
You can see Poyer applauding that incredible athletic play.
Poyer probably gets a front seat to those blocks all the time, but you know what? It never gets old.
Defensive pressure there. Steph Wood's not able to pursue it. And again, watch this shot from Moeller. Perfectly arced. No way for Woods.
And the spacing right here is not exactly perfect. Moeller is pretty close to Semper and not giving her a ton of space to allow for a clear, to allow for a dump throw when the stall count's getting high. But it still happens to work out. They get that quick little bump off and then the immediate hit to Harnage. So great play from Surge.
Liz Hart with the big pull. That's one of the first we've seen in this upwind direction.
Rupp without the mark finds Fireside Ostergaard.
And I like this kind of face guarding, really poachy set we're seeing right now from Surge. They're sitting under some lanes and backing other players. You can kind of look at it from a matchup by matchup basis.
Not a ton of movement downfield here. Walby's able to find Regan coming under. Right back to Walby, gets lots of separation on the upline, kind of milks that throw. She should put it right here to Mexstroth, and Mexstroth is able to grab it on the third try, maybe?
What an incredible save. Mexstroth bobbling, maintains control. The pressure there at the disc, out to space, but it slows up just enough that the defense was able to make a play.
That's some real concentration there from Mexstroth. 1, 2,
Misses
3.
it on the first grab.
Yep, and you see some frustration from here, Annette, and that's hard to know what to do with that one.
Watch again. This is almost underthrown. Mexstroth has to slow down to make the play. Defense able to close in very superb concentration from Mexstroth.
Absolutely.
Doesn't get in 3 Incredibles from me in 1 point.
So Strike looking again to punch in this break. I sound like a broken record, but this is what they're going to need to do if they want to get back into this game. They're down by 2 with 5 minutes left here in the third quarter. Still have a whole fourth quarter to go, of course, but you don't want to let this get too far away from you with a team like Philly. You want to make sure you're keeping it close, and getting a break here right now would do a huge amount for that. So we'll see what we can do. We've got Monshine with the pull for Surge, looking to again kind of have that nice clean offense. Maroon catches and centers to Walsh. Back in the person set from Strike. And part of what makes Grace Maroon so dynamic is that she really can perform at an extremely high level, either as a cutter or a handler. Nice grab from Hart, scooping it off the ground.
Risky inside shot, but it moves the disc across the field and makes that swing break side available.
Maroon over to K-Spa. K-Spa continues break side up to Hart, and Hart grabs it with one hand. Pretty easy, Kelsey.
I have been so impressed by Liz Hart. The athleticism, the big body. And you can see the team's confidence shooting to her in these spaces. She wasn't wide open. We've seen a lot of like wide open corner cuts. Not that. That's just like big body, go make a big play.
And another sort of curvy throw. This has a lot of arc to it. But really no chance for Lander to get there without going through her body. And that's a great grab.
Out in front, just enough pace that she doesn't have to slow down. Check it again. Yeah, you can see the little bit of arm in the back, the check of like, I don't want to plow through you, let me slow myself down. And Hart just absorbing that impact. So pressure put back on Minnesota. They are down 3 right now. They hold, it'll be within 2. But their defense not exerting as much pressure, not making things as difficult. Surge really feels like it's hit its stride. And the momentum is all on their side right now.
Yeah, it's funny when we talk about this kind of slightly lighter roster being on the first game of a 2-game series here. You might expect them to start out really strong, and I'll finish that thought in a second, but Bacon is hucking it. Mex is, oh my gosh, triple coverage and comes down with it, just plucks it out of the sky. Classic Sarah Mexstroth. That was beautiful. Back to Bacon, and Bacon up to Beck. That's a fiery one. Crowd is fired up.
Second goal of the game for Louise Beck. Huge plays by Mexstroth. She's coming up big when the Strike team needs her to. Again, can we see that defensive pressure? Can the defense get its mojo back? Or has Surge just found its poise? Is this their game? We're still in the third quarter. We've got a lot of game left, more than 15 minutes at this point. A lot could change. But I kind of get the feeling I want to see it from Strike now. I don't want them to wait till fourth quarter.
Let's see this catch from Mexstroth again. 2 defenders and really just plucks it straight out of the air.
Holy
Daly
high
and
point
Byers,
Batman.
Byers both excited to see that from the other side of the field. Really a sandwich, but perfectly timed jump over a defender, Moeller, who is quite tall, potentially taller than Mexstroth actually. So
and has been making big plays.
Yeah, so that is a great grab.
But I love that back angle dish to Bacon, who just in motion pops it into the end zone for Louise Beck.
I would love to see a big defensive play from Josh Hendrickson here. Josh Hendrickson. All right, so we've got
almost every game.
picking up here on the sideline. Looks like some conversation about whether the disc went out or not, but it looks like it sure did. So Surge will start in the center of the field here.
Interesting scheme. So Strike starting out not in their zone, but really taking up space underneath the lanes. But Surge doesn't look phased by it at all.
But Hendrickson there putting some pressure on Hart, caused a little bit of a bobble, but Hart is able to hang on. Walsh finding Maroon. Again, Maroon here in the backfield, but look for her to streak deep and make an impact downfield as well. Caseball with the disc on the sideline. Back to Maroon. Hearing it working hard. Some nice pressure from Regan, but able to grab it. Down to Caseball. And nice little dishy over the head of the mark to Maroon. That's another pretty easy hold for Surge.
That toss was so quick. Rupp was getting into position, but just thrown before she could really consolidate her mark. Philly looking just poised and everything going their way right now. What does it take? So we've seen zone, we've seen person, we've now seen this like under marking scheme, but the defense just kind of blowing by it, and a lot of generation of motion coming from the handle set for Philly Surge.
Absolutely. Colleague Spalaris is a player on this Surge team who looks like has played 3 different pro teams other than, or including Surge. Also played with Sidewinders from Arizona in the Western Ultimate League and New York Gridlock. Lots of club teams as well, including AMP and Cupcakes. So well decorated, lots of experience there. We're really seeing her shine here in this third quarter. All right, PUL is up and Bacon centers to Daly. Those two really holding down the fort in the backfield on offensive line for Strike. Johnson McKee wide open on that cut across. Finds Poyer, and Poyer's going to shoot it, looking for Mextroth, who has separation, and Mextroth elevates for the score.
Player's going to make plays.
This has really been a clinic of Mextroth deep cuts and catches.
I like that it's a clean hold. I like that it gets the defense right back out there. Strike now doing a very good job of just continuing to pass it back. Okay, you can score, great. We can score too. I want to see that intensity, but I think right now offense getting it done so much better. Both offenses just clicking at a really high level here in the second half. We're seeing that proficiency, but man, I would have loved to see Strike hold on to a couple of those opportunities. They're in a much more tight spot than they could have been. Philly has got to be so pleased, on the other hand, with their game.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, these are the kind of games where you think back on the turnovers that you have right on the goal line, the block that you almost got if you'd left your feet. Could one of those things have made the difference to claw Strike back in the game? And those things still could happen. Like we said, we've got 3 minutes left here in the third quarter and then the whole fourth quarter. But the time is coming up for Strike to get those breaks and tie this game back up.
It sure does make it interesting. I'm in some ways enjoying this game so much more than the first home game, of just the tightness, the back and forth. Like, it really could be any person's game. But Philadelphia, again, we have to note, moving quickly, moving efficiency. We've barely lost a minute off the clock in 2 consecutive offensive holds.
Moore's looking for K-Spot. K-Spot with the kind of softball fake there. Over to Shields. Good to see her on the field looking healthy after that collision earlier. Maroon finds Milligan. Looks like a pick called, but didn't affect the play, so the disc should stay with Milligan. Maddie Lander taking that Grace Maroon matchup this time. Lander, a somewhat recent graduate from Middlebury College, moving to Minnesota recently. Walsh with the big around, finding Morse right on the sideline. Great look there. Looks like another pick called. And for those of us less familiar with the rules, the kind of rectangle arms is a pick. It means that someone has gotten in your way of playing defense, if it's your own teammate or someone from the other team. Nobody's allowed to get in your way of following your person on defense, unlike basketball.
That was actually about what I was going to say. My father comes from a basketball and football background, and the first time he saw me play, he coached me on how I could more effectively pick players. I said, no, we can't do that.
Daniel Walsh is begging for the disc there. And then a nice floaty throw to Morse for another score.
Both teams have just been carving up this corner. We see the confidence in that arcing throw. Defense so hard to seal. Again, I'll ask, when you get to that side of the field, do you just flat mark it and force it back because it's working every time?
I think that the strike coaches have seen it enough that at this point, if they were going to make a change, they probably would have.
Well, and I'll call myself out. I do think that was a flat mark. I just think it was too far. Look at this. There's a flat mark. It's just yards off, and so unable to affect the play in that case.
Potentially, Monshine and Fireside Ostergaard communicating about a switch, but it not quite happening, so that mark from Monshine is giving a lot of space to Walsh to get that throw off.
In that case, Philadelphia taking advantage of that botched roll or switched play. Philadelphia still with a comfortable 3-point lead.
At that point, slightly longer, taking about a minute and a half off the clock, but we still got 2 minutes left here in this third quarter. Strike hoping to have another quick hold, but Surge looking to put some defensive pressure on. Surge would probably be just as happy to have holds out for the rest of the game.
And note at this point, Surge was previously crossing over Grace Maroon, crossing over a couple other players. We haven't seen as much of this now that they have this cushion. I think looking to conserve and maybe keep something in the tank for the Monarch game unless they are required to pull it out.
Absolutely, it's a good point. We've got buyers here at the disc marked by Maida. Looking for a reset and finding Bacon. Some nice pressure from Alfano. Beck with the disc, about 7 yards out of the end zone. Bacon able to get the reset right back to Beck. And there's a nicely executed switch there. Great inside from Beck and continues immediately to Mextroth. Louise Beck is the absolute champion of those inside flicks.
I am stunned. That was very tiny, narrow, and I think that's trust. Again, Louise Bacon having played multiple times together, and you see, knows it's coming, confidence, shoots it inside. Twice that Bacon made those really difficult overhand grabs. Well, watch the dexterity, makes the grab, and how quickly she gets balanced. So grab, base, and throw in a single motion.
Mm-hmm. As someone who has marked against Louise Beck, even in more casual settings, that throw, even if you know it's coming, she's still going to throw it. She's still going to get it off somehow. It's kind of magical, and I don't understand it, but I'm very impressed.
The word is devastating.
Yes.
You know it's coming, and you can't stop it.
It's true.
So we're, seeing some snaps, seeing some pizzazz. We've seen some back-to-back clean holds. This is really good. Again, for both these teams, when do we get the defensive pressure back? Mm-hmm. It's my happy place.
And like you said, it is sort of an interesting situation for Surge where they would be perfectly happy to have clean holds for the rest of this game. Then they would still probably win by 2 or 3. So they are maybe taking their foot off the gas pedal on defense potentially. But Strike is really going to need to put some pressure on if they want to make this more interesting.
Surge initiated out of a starting side stack, and Hart streaking deep.
Beautiful throw from Milligan, perfectly placed. We've got Hart right on the end zone line here. Can she find Morse for the a goal once again? Those two have been connecting the entire game, making it look easy.
I loved that set play. Again, side stack initiation. Hart makes a really strong move out into the field, has the defense on their heels, immediately breaks deep. That's a pull play, folks. That was planned. Watch, Hart flashes across the field, goes deep. A cup is set, and so this backhand is wide open and can be set out into space. It's not casual. It's still out there, just shy of the end zone, but extremely well executed.
Yeah, that's a beautiful throw. The only thing that would have made it more beautiful is if it had taken Liz Hart 2 more steps into the end zone, but they're able to get the assist on the board instead. And Linda Moore's just so difficult to guard in those small spaces. Monshine leaving her feet, trying to get the block to no avail. All right, we've got the pull up from Moeller. And defense is all set up by the time Strike gets to the disc. We've got Daly with the disc. Nice big mark from Alvey.
Semper immediately, that poach in the space, I would call this more of a junk zone. It's not a traditional cup, but again, they're stepping into the lanes, causing a lot of throws, and completely disconnecting the downfield cutters from the throwers. Strike having to work far around the outskirts. This is really effective defense.
I think this is the first time we've seen something a little junky from Surge.
And it also burns clock, Rebecca. Remember that. They're up 3. Strike wants to win quickly, get their defense back out there, get an opportunity for a break. They can't win by holding.
Yep, exactly. So good strategy here. We got 13 seconds also left in the quarter. So Strike is really going to want to keep possession for these next 7 seconds. Again, if they turn it over here before the quarter expires, then Surge has the opportunity to score. And that's the expiration. So Strike can hold on and score and end the quarter here. Except they won't, because it looks like there's a hand block from Alvey, but Daly is calling a foul.
I thought Alvey had completely stuffed that throw. What a exclamation point that would have been on this point. Instead, Minnesota still with the disc. It's an interesting dynamic of the game that the clock goes out, but the possession keeps going. So there's not the same urgency of having to shoot on a timeline, but still this knowledge, you can't flinch. You have to hold possession.
Inside put from Bacon, finding Beck with acres of space. Another inside from Beck, and just bounces off Poyer's hands, just a little too hot. So Strike will end without the goal. And they will start again on offense the fourth quarter, but would have loved to punch that one in too. So we're going to take a look again at this block here. That was called a foul. I'm not sure. Daniel Walsh is certainly super excited about it. What do you think, Kelsey?
That's a tough one. You know what? I think what I saw was the disc still in McKenna's hands, which is probably where that foul was called. But it's such good anticipation and placement by Alvey just to get there and lock that up. Tell you what, 13 seconds on the clock. I would love to see the fans on their feet cheering. If I'm Strike, get yourself a person to rally these fans and get them up. But we've still got a whole nother quarter of action coming for you.
Hello, fans of the Minnesota Strike. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to Seafoam Stadium, where we are getting ready to start the fourth quarter here. Wanting to shout out a couple of our sponsors before we get started. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. Additionally, this live broadcast is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete Collab shops.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to PremierUltimateLeague.com to donate today.
All right, we are starting on offense here. Minnesota Strike wanting to punch in this hold again. That hold on the other side of the break would have been really helpful, but this is a good place to start. Mextroth for a streaking Poyer that's underthrown, and Brand is able to come down with it for Surge. So quick turnover from Strike here. Surge can punch in another back-breaking break here.
Surge had someone streaking deep. They have been so good at the fast break attacks, but right now Strike slowing them down.
Moeller with that around to Harnage. Back to Brandt, who got the block earlier. And again, Surge is content to take as much time as they need. And of course, as soon as I say that, we have a big huck from Moeller looking for Harnage downfield. Not quite enough air under that one.
You know, I didn't think it was a high stall situation. There definitely was some stagnation downfield. I'm kind of surprised I didn't see a timeout. That would, to me, been a marked opportunity. Stretch this lead.
Poyer shooting for Byers and just bounces off the outstretched hands of Byers. Again, Moeller with that pressure from behind. Didn't have to get a hand on the disc or anything, but potentially making things a little difficult for Byers.
And that's a tough spot for Byers where she could have bid for it or, was trying to run it through instead. But quick turn, Poyer diving. Is it up? She's celebrating like it is.
I saw the observer just do a timeout call. So unclear what's going on. Great grab. That does look like it was up from Poyer. Worth the celebration. But it looks like there was a timeout called. So I would expect the disc to stay with Bacon on that sideline. A little bit of confusion here.
And I've seen this before. If you're that player, you make that incredible effort, and it's a timeout. It gets taken away. So still an opportunity, but that can be so tough when players are in motion. And I think if you're Philly, you've got to be so frustrated with that quick turn back.
In the backfield,
They
too.
had been executing at such a higher level on their counterattack. When they got that possession, they really weren't giving it back.
Great grab.
Phenomenal.
Poyer, her body fully hits the ground before she makes the catch, which is really hard to do when you're contending with that contact from the ground and then still getting the disc.
And was so open, I think maybe a little rushed by Bacon, trying to get it to her before the defense closed the gap. But in that rushing, underthrown. But here we are, Minnesota.
So it looks like
Interesting.
Surge actually has possession. So that timeout call must have been a couple possessions ago.
Was it while Surge still had possession? Very interesting dynamic, but a throwaway.
Yeah, that's probably not what they drew up in the timeout. But we've got Monshine picking up inside throw to Fireside Ostergaard. Love to see that continue to that far break side. We do find it. Cook able to hold on to it. Again, we got a lot of bobble catches in this game.
Absolute circus grab from Cook. And remember, this would be for a hold for Strike, but it's their D-line that's currently on the field.
Yep. Part of the rules of the Premier Ultimate League is that you can actually change out who is on the field during a timeout. That's not the case in typical Club Ultimate, but some strategic choices to be made. Great block from Walsh, and Cook was almost able to get that second effort grab again, but not quite able to hang on.
I thought we were going to see two. I really did. But the pressure unrelenting from this Philly Surge offensive line, and they are moving the disc so quickly, and we're not seeing Strike responding quite as fast. Overshot second effort, but it goes to the ground for Morse.
Good grab from Morris. Looks like they're taking an injury. Hopefully they're okay. Just hit the ground a little bit hard on that one. It's always a tough one when the disc sails over you to go from jumping to turning to immediately laying out hard on the body.
It was a flat-footed bid for that disc.
So Chelsea Semper coming in. Strike also having the opportunity to sub out to a player as well when Surge takes an injury. It looks like Daly coming in for Regan, putting some more handler power on the field.
Yeah, Reba, if you're coaching or captaining and teaching players to bid, one of the things that can almost help, one, a wet day, but two, instead of starting bidding from a standstill, doing it with some momentum because you get slide. It almost cushions the impact versus just landing static on the ground like Morse just did.
Yep. And it feels a little different on turf versus grass, too. I find that turf is a little bit less forgiving where you don't slide quite as much.
A little bit. Plus burns.
Yes, those turf burns will get you. Hendrickson in the backfield here, marked by Milligan. Looking for the around, not able to find it. Then finds Daly, who has lots of space. Daly up to Cook. See if Strike can stay patient here. Cook finds Daly, who hops it into the end zone for a score.
Thrown behind Daly, but the concentration, momentum not carrying her too far. And you can see the relief from Cook as she embraces Fireside Ostergaard. Knew that she underthrew that one. That's an excellent hold there for Minnesota.
That's actually Cook's first stat on the game today, which is surprising because she is such a dynamic player, so important for this team, making big plays constantly. I guess I should say stat, including goals and assists. I'm not tracking blocks here. So offensive stat. Would love to see her get more involved as the game continues.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we are used to seeing from the Strike team and haven't seen as much of, especially in the second half, is they are also capable of that fast break after a turn. And instead, Surge has really been owning that element of the game. The defense, the Surge's offensive line has been transitioning very quickly to defense and putting that immediate pressure on. And I think that's where you saw that big 4-point comeback, just back-to-back-to-back points rattled off. So right now, within 2, again, we talked about it, 8 minutes left to play. It's a long time, but Philly has held this margin now for close to 20 minutes.
Yep. Now is the time for Strike to get this block and to get a break. It needs to happen if we want to get back in this game. Morse with the big backhand huck. There's 2-on-1 downfield. Can Maroon come down with it? Of course she can. Casual two-handed grab from Grace Maroon. That is impressive.
Maroon was so deep. Like, if I'm a coach, I'm going holster. Like, stopped her cut. She was so deep. And the disc is thrown up. Morse just putting a lot of juice on it. Defense is there, but Maroon elevates, goes up, and gets this one. That's an incredible play. And I feel like just added superlatives on the performance we've seen from Grace Maroon this game. 3rd goal.
And I wonder if Monshine, she's a little behind the play, but I wonder if she could have gotten a little more involved, put in a little more pressure behind Maroon potentially. Hard to know exactly what the specs are there when you're on the field, but it ended up looking more like a one-on-one when it got down to it. Another really fantastic play from Grace Maroon. Again, a young player still in college, a true rising star from this Philly area. Really excited to see her continue to grow and shine as the years go on. So once again, a pretty easy and fast hold for Surge. Not what you want to see if you're a Strike fan, but as a Surge fan, you love to see this. They are not seeming to put in a whole ton of effort into these scores, which is exactly what they want on this 2-day road trip. Daly with the disc marked by Alvey. Johnson McKee left open downfield, finds that throw up to Mexstroth. Mexstroth to Poyer. Nice timing there to be right in that open space as soon as she caught it. And Poyer to Byers. That's a really nice, clean hold for Strike.
You could see Mexstroth considering the Byers option was downfield, had yards, would have had to have a lot of heat on it. Instead, Byers cleaning out, loops her defender, and tortures her back to that front side cone. Watch this again. 2 cutters in the lane. Byers clearing out because Poyer has the better option, but then just scorching back to that front cone.
And just really good timing all around from the downfield cutters on Strike on that point. They didn't look back for a reset to their handlers once that point, and they didn't need to.
Confidence. I mean, when you've got Poyer and Byers as your 2 downfield 1-2 options and a full lane to operate in, if I'm the rest of Strike, I'm holding back and just giving them that space. So fun little mix. You're seeing a lot of support here from the Minnesota Winchell, but I want to highlight one in particular. We're catching him mid-yawn. Love you, James Pollard. James Pollard, a former Philly player, now playing here in Minnesota for the Chill, but also Minnesota Dragon Thrust. But you see him repping the Philly jersey. From the perspective up in the box, we know he's repping the Chelsea Semper numbers, but just a fun little, like, I'm on your team, but I'm for the other team dynamic there.
Yep. Pollard in town likely for the wind chill game against the Atlanta Hustle last night, which was a really fun watch, free on YouTube if you want to go check it out after this one's over. Won't spoil it for you, but it was a good game.
Oh, I was going to spoil it, but I guess I'll hold off. It was such a good game.
Morris over to Shields on the far sideline, finding Liz Hart.
And we're seeing this kind of chaser defense again from the Strike. Again, one back, that's Monshine, 3 in a wall, but now they'll fall out of it and go back into a person coverage.
Walsh just kind of standing in the open space with arms wide open, shooting it to Maroon. Again, just too easy.
Maroon so open. Really good recognition by Hendricks to peel off and make that play. Not her player. Maroon off that back shoulder, just making that back third cut wide open. And it kind of, from a thrower's perspective, almost like a shot to nowhere. You could see the glance, airs it out, and everyone else is going, what, where? Oh, Maroon, of course.
Yep, and again, Maroon, the type of player that can make that kind of cut from the handler space. It catches your defender extremely off guard. You see Monshine trailing behind from that handler space. So Hendrickson, yes, is able to pick up and get in there. But it is so hard to cover someone who is that fast, who is able to be in the backfield, who has those throws, who also is able to get open and make those big catches. Really demoralizing as a defender, and also really fun to watch as a spectator.
So Philly still holding that 3-point edge. 7 minutes, just barely under 7 left on the clock. Again, if I'm Strike, I'm feeling some urgency. They've thrown out their zone, they've thrown out person, they've thrown out a junk. What can they do differently? Right now they need to hold quickly, and timing as offense becomes more of a factor because you want to get in and off the field as quickly as possible, but you also don't want to turn. You want to be really possession-minded. And I love this choice by Philly. Throw the zone, slow things down, make it a grind for Strike.
Forcing some odder throws, like Bacon's kind of blade over the top of that cup. And then Bacon, another super blady throw looking for Beck. And Beck catches it off the deflection. Moeller was right there and gets the D, but Beck is able to catch it. Does Moeller get the assist there, or is that still Bacon?
I think we credit it to Bacon, but the circus catches continue. And again, I want to cite and credit players' instincts, awareness, reflexes. You see hands are up, shifts down, just that in-motion effort. I would be so proud of that if I were her. Watch again. Tip. Could have been a caught. I think Moeller almost going up too soon.
It looks like they maybe tried to catch it and maybe bounced off the hands. This is what we say all the time, catch these.
And we're hearing the stands start to echo. The fans really get involved. You can see them trying to cheer the Strike on again. This sense of urgency, and I love that involvement and bringing the energy, trying to drive a little of that in. Sometimes your fans are what lift you up. And if we see a break here, I would credit that one, chalk it up to the fans, give them the assist.
And Ultimate is often a game of runs. So if Strike can punch in a break here, they're going to have the momentum. They're going to have the energy. There might be another one shortly after. But you got to start with the first one.
Got to start with the first one. And if you're Philly, you're feeling supremely confident because you have been holding, again, since half. It's been very, very clean, and that margin has been all yours.
Same sort of similar faces here for the O-line for Surge. We've got Walsh and Maroon starting out in the backfield.
Interesting scheme from Strike. You're seeing these just absorbing, kind of sagging into the lane handle.
Walsh
Shot,
with that
though.
big huck for Milligan. Milligan, who we typically see in the backfield with streaking deep, looks like an injury potentially coming up a little staggering on that run.
Yeah, Milligan coming up lane, and I think was open, would have closed on that. Ellie Fireside Ostergaard just on the back hip. Watch this again. Big lefty flick. Tons of edge, and you just see coming up short. Possibly could have closed.
Yep.
That's a real just bad luck incident there for Surge, and a very big opportunity for Strike. They will have to go the full 70, but look who they subbed onto the field.
Does look like there's a timeout, and then we're not surprised to see this O-line back on the field with Michaela Daly and Erica Bacon, the sort of firepower behind the offensive line. Looks like Mextron's headed out there as well. Looks like maybe a cramp from Milligan getting stretched out there on the sideline. Glad that they're okay. I've been really impressed by their game today.
Well, and again, we talked about heat. You know, if you're coming from a space, Surge had been talking about, they had been playing in wind, in rain, in cold temperatures. And to come to Minnesota, and here they get the heat? What inverted world is this? But this is an interesting. So Strike was going to get a player that they could sub in due to the injury anyways. But the choice to burn the timeout now and really take the opportunity, but it leaves them with no timeouts at all. Okay? So 6 minutes left on the clock, almost. No timeouts left. It means this possession is crucial.
Yep.
For the offensive line. They need to punch in this break.
Yep. Coach Johnny Wood of Strike recognizing the importance of this possession. They are on the end zone line, going the opposite direction. They need their O-line out there. Got a poach from Hiranet in the middle of the field, kind of mucking up that first look. Got Mextroth with the disc, trying to find Daly. A little reset there. Daly looking for Poyer, a nice big under. Poyer thinking about shooting potentially, but not seeing the option. Nice around to Bacon.
Love that Poyer-Hart matchup. Speed on speed.
Now Mextroth is going to shoot. Big put to Poyer. Not quite in the end zone, though. She's got to tap it back in. Can she find help?
Poyer pinned to the corner with that huge Mart matchup. No resets in sight until Bacon swoops in.
Bacon finding Byers, and Byers, oh, huge block from Morse. Layout block on the end zone line. That is huge.
And I want to see the Surge sideline just explode on that. That was an incredible effort. It's a big opportunity. They're back in their end zone. If the Strike D can really ramp up here, they could clamp and get it. And we do get a
Another turn.
But they were able to march it all the way to half field. Poyer immediately striking deep.
Potential injury call. Byers going off the field. Hopefully she's okay. Jane Cook coming on. And looks like Surge is considering subbing someone. Hart calling for it. Looking a little tired. But Danielle Walsh is coming on too. Long point. Long point. There's already been a timeout here. And again, like we said earlier, the long points are in Surge's favor.
Yeah, Hart had been chasing Poyer up and down the field.
Instead,
Walsh will take that matchup.
Man, that block from Morse was incredible. I'm sure we'll see it again on the replay in a little bit, but that is huge. Let's see. Yeah, let's take a look right now.
Watch this again. Has the lane. Morse just flashes over, lights that up.
Yeah, gets her entire full hand, every single finger on there. And another quick turn after the stoppage from Surge. We've seen this a few times today. I think there's some things that some coaches will probably be wanting to work on after the game's done. So another chance for a break from Strike. Bacon finding Cook. And that throw is knocked down by Hiranet, looking for Beck. Morse was thinking about picking up, but smartly recognizing we don't have to rush. Walsh picking up and finding Maroon. Another missed break chance from Strike. That one's going to hurt. K-Spot with a nice push pass back to Walsh on the reset. The two of them are playing catch here. Walsh going every other, essentially, until now. Another run-in for Shields. Again, had that collision earlier. So calling a foul. Looks like it's uncontested. Back to Maroon. Maroon and Walsh in the backfield here. Quick turns, changing a direction from Walsh. Finding Shields, great diving grab right outside the end zone, and a quick dishy to K-Spa, who has the kick spike. Man, that one hurts for Strike.
So remember, that's a hold for Philly. They remain their 3-goal margin, and that one's crushing. Strike burnt its timeout there. They had multiple opportunities. They had that shot on goal. Something I want to highlight, Rebecca, is that cone. Remember, they've really tried to rifle into that little 5-yard by 2-yard area on that front cone time and again. And there have been multiple D opportunities. Yes, they've gotten it a couple times, but it's been high-pressure plays. I'd love to see them swing the disc.
Yeah, and those two blocks that we just saw from Surge, those are not like just the tip of your fingers getting your finger there to sort of disrupt it. These are like full hand. You see exactly where the disc is going. Part of that, again, Byers throwing that strike to Bacon that gets D'd by Morse. Morse and Byers have played together many, many years, so they maybe know each other. They know what they're looking for, and they're able to get that block.
Yeah, I think Beck trying to come into that backfield space, maybe, 1-2 really hard steps and then going in for a 7 cut instead, making that an easier shot. Cook was under a lot of pressure and the stall count was rising.
All right, that pull, it looks like it landed out of bounds, so Rupp will bring it to the middle of the field here. 3 minutes or so left in the fourth quarter.
And something to think about, even though that was a hold for Philly, because the timeout was there, because so many of the Strike offensive players were on the line, now this hold for Strike has essentially their 0-2 line. This is their rebound line that's out here right now. A little bit of mix and match, but some of the same players that we saw play portions of that previous point.
Yep. And we see Philly surge again in this sort of junky zone look, which will again take a lot of time off the clock.
Yeah, and if I'm feeling supremely confident. You're up 3, you're able to comfortably run your zone. It's been effective, and Strike not really penetrating through it. I'd love to see them running some of these angles, but Philly doing such a good job of collapsing in as these cuts are going up, and these swings are not getting far enough around that they're able to turn the corner.
Yep.
This is masterful zone defense by Philly.
Yep. And during the perfect time of the game, too. They've really pulled it out when they need to slow things down, take time off the clock.
And the temptation, if you're Monshine, when you get that throw almost in power position, you've got a same third player going downfield, you kind of want to hut the disc and just give it a shot.
It's like Byers is down, potentially also cramping. Coach for Strike is running on the field, stretching out the calf. Cramps are no fun, but rather have a cramp than anything more serious.
Now we were talking to Coach Genghis Phillips earlier. I love this, getting carried off the field. You can see her
first class transport,
cracking up
still
in laughter.
Cramping.
Oh, still cramping.
Oh, you can kind of see her foot. Yeah, that's no fun for anybody.
But yeah, Coach Genghis Phillips was talking to us about how they were just forcing electrolytes and liquid into the players, but you also really got to start the day before, and like 2 days before that, for it to properly get in your system. And I think just this kind of turn of hot weather is kind of taking everyone off guard.
Yep.
But the clock ticks down. We are sub 2 minutes here. Philly up 3. And Strike need to hold if they're going to have any chance to get their D back out there and make a play.
Yeah, and important to note, the end of the fourth quarter is a little different than the ends of the other quarters. With the other quarters, teams have time to run out the clock and retain possession until they score or turn it over. At the end of the fourth quarter, when the clock expires, game is over. So potential for a fun buzzer beater, and we'll see what happens. And that's going to be called out of bounds. Regan was able to jump and grab it, but landed on the line. So we see Walby and Strike sort of succumb to that pressure of wanting to throw some weird stuff, and does not work out for them.
Yeah, again, that sense of urgency. When you're wanting to act and act quickly, you take more risks.
Maida finds Semper, finds Alvey for the break, and that really does feel like the nail in the coffin, doesn't it?
And there's the energy we've been wanting to see all game. Alvey just exhilarated, taking hugs from her players.
Quieter game from Alvey, so really awesome to see her get on the stats list. Looks excited as well.
I think Alvey has been involved in a lot of that, pressure, especially in the backfield from this team. But just in time, gorgeous shot from Semper, fully open cone. That's a tough one, and it really feels like that's the last nail in the coffin for this Strike team. Remember, first half they were up 2, marching break after break after break from this Philadelphia Surge team. And they just really look like they have locked in. And quite frankly, the way they are performing efficiently, I expect them to have plenty in the tank when they play Monarch tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel like you have any idea, Kelsey, of sort of what made the difference in that switch? We talked earlier just about how Strike was up by 2. Like, they looked solid. Surge looked a little bit off their game. And what a turnaround here that they've really handled the game since maybe the middle of the second quarter.
So one of the things I'll note is, remember, Philadelphia Surge said that they had been playing in wind and rough conditions all season. And we think about that being kind of a Minnesota mindset, but the air was flat, there was no wind. This second half, it's been gusty, it's swirled from side to side, and I think Surge did a better job of adjusting to that change of wind and was more effectively able to put away pressure once there weren't so many free shots on the board.
Yep. Bacon with a big backhand shot across the field looking for Poyer. Great find. Poyer with the speed and the celebration. That's a nice hold for strike.
That's a great hold. That's that lightning fast strike that we wanted from this Minnesota team earlier, but now 42 seconds on the hold. If I'm Philadelphia, I'm just resetting for days because they could totally burn out the clock and the game is theirs. Really tough one for strike, but I think they can hold their heads high. A lot of things they did well, just those break opportunities needing to value a little bit more, and some red zone opportunities lost from their offense.
Poyer trying to hype the team up. Clearly an energy leader for the strike team, wanting to see if they can punch in this break towards the end of the game. Again, unclear if there's really enough time to make any real push for making this interesting in the last 44 seconds. But the energy part is important. Can you end the game on a really strong note? Can you go into your next game sort of riding that high?
Yeah, I mean, we're still sort of middle, approaching end game, but middle of the season, there are still opportunities to build. Energy really can develop going forward. I'd love to see strike end on a high note, and if you're Surge, you want a clean possession. If you're able to hold, great, but more than that, just maintain, stay disciplined, and connect on your throws.
Maroon starting with Walsh in the backfield here. Looks a little zony once again.
I love Walsh just holding the disc like a baton, ready to go full stall count just to burn the clock.
And doesn't look like a stall count got started right away on Maroon. Maroon dishes to K-Spot and then immediately streaks deep. Kind of an odd throw there from K-Spot to Hironet, but works out.
Hironet absolutely elevating to save that possession.
Milligan, glad to see them back on the field after going down with an injury. Finding Walsh. We got 10 seconds left, so one more pass and this game will be over. And the last pass to Shields. Hendrickson selling out to try to get that last block.
And you can say Hendrickson saying, why not? Hendrickson almost got the last word in this matchup. Philadelphia, though, holds on strong, up 3 over Minnesota Strike. What a game, Rebecca.
Yeah, exciting game. There's this tension where we're wondering, is Strike going to be able to make that break? Or are they going to find it in them to make this a close game? Unfortunately, today was not the day. But you're still kind of on the edge of your seat wondering if it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely had the players both directions, but Philadelphia Surge showing that they really have some ceiling. Because imagine, add Lindsay McKenna back in, add Natalie Bova, who they get back tomorrow. So they're adding another tool in their toolkit. Hopefully Kit Astron back in. Sarah Liang out with the flu, so will be coming back in later in this season. These are really key players who will instantly upgrade their lives.
Yeah, and when you think about the throwing firepower from those players that are missing, from McKenna, from Astron, from Liang, I didn't even notice it really that they were missing those. I was really impressed with Milligan, always impressed with Danielle Walsh. Really, really strong throws and not looking particularly phased that they were missing those talented throwers.
And if we're looking at stats, very balanced. I mean, we're seeing 3 assists from 3 different players, 3 or more goals from 3 different players, points all across. So, like, really good distribution up across their roster.
And that is unique from the gridlock strike game that we commentated a few weeks ago, where we saw Jenny DeJesus rack up like 9 goals, which, of course, that's just what Jenny DeJesus does. But I think gridlock doing sort of showing one way to do it, where they're sort of siphoning through their top talent in that game. And Surge showing us that they can play with all their players, all 15 who are here, really getting good playing time, getting good touches.
So, again, if you're Minnesota Strike, a Minnesota Strike fan, hold on to that magic in a bottle from the first half. That was really good pressure, and quite frankly, saw very good things from their offense in the second half. Can they put the 2 pieces together? That is what we would love to see. And the Minnesota Strike saluting their fans coming down. Gonna say good effort, team. This was a big one, and it'll be tough for Strike to get this loss at home. But again, a lot to celebrate from this game.
We want to highlight, if you enjoyed today's stream, please consider donating by scanning the QR code that will be on your screen in a second, or at strikeultimate.com. Minnesota Strike is a nonprofit organization, and all donations do go towards player pay, travel costs, and bringing you high-quality live streams like the one you just saw today. Thank you so much for supporting the Strike. So this is Strike's 4th game of the season, right? 6-game season, so it's a relatively short one. They have an away game coming up and then a home game against Nashville Nightshade for their final game of the series. So, you know, wanting to see the Strike sort of take what they have learned from this game and use that in the games in the future, but we'll be excited to be back for the Nightshade game in a few weeks. So in just a second here, we're going to send it down to Laura Osterlund, who is live with Veronica Colegüe-Spalaris, or K-Spa, who had a really fantastic game for the Surge with 2 assists and 2 goals. Fiery presence on the field. Excited to hear what she has to say. So Laura, we'll send it down to you.
All right, yeah, I'm here with K-Spa. You had a great game. What went well for the team in general this game to help you pull out that win?
I think for Surge offense, really cutting through the disc helped us a lot. And also when we were playing shutdown D on their big players, it really opened up the field for the rest of us.
And you're coming into it, or I guess now halfway through this doubleheader. You got a game against Milwaukee tomorrow. What takeaways are you going to take from this game going into the next?
I think really keeping our offensive flow. I liked that we really valued the disc but wasn't afraid to take those deep shots as they came. Also, up crashes through our zone. I assume we're also going to have a windy game tomorrow, so using that would be great.
Finally, do you have any shout-outs you want to give?
Obviously, I thought Grace Maroon played a great game today. Also, Liz Hart catching all our blades. Love that. Yeah, honestly, so excited for tomorrow.
All right, and there you have it. Back to you in the booth.
Thanks so much, Laura. Appreciate the interview and the insight. Surge again with a pretty incredible performance, and we saw athletic plays on both sides of the disc.
Yeah, some really exciting play here from the very beginning of the play. Here's Regan with the grab early on in the first quarter. Maddie Lander also with a huge layout. Exciting to see her getting involved as well. So I think Surge can leave this game feeling pretty confident. Like we said earlier, they arrive with a pretty understaffed team. They're still able to pull it off against this pretty talented Strike team. And the mental resilience it requires, like we said, to come back from a game that you are down in, that's a really good thing to be proud of.
Absolutely. And I think if we had to highlight one thing, it would also be the resurgence of Sarah Mextra. Mm-hmm. We didn't see, have as much of an impact, but seeing the athletic plays, the team defense, just very exciting. And again, showing that there is still ceiling for this Minnesota Strike team.
Absolutely. Great catch from Sarah Needy. And Grace Maroon, I would say, was a really impressive player. I know we were talking about her earlier, but what a huge pickup for the Surge here. Really impressed always with Danielle Walsh as well. Just kind of a calm general in the backfield. Really good throws, really taking control of that offensive set. So great grab here from Liz Hart as well. I know we talked about them earlier. What a great shot from our camera person, of course having the advantage of being directly in front of the camera, but really great shot there. Well, Kelsey, another great game here from Minnesota Strike. It's always a pleasure to watch these teams play at Seafoam Stadium. A beautiful night here in Minnesota, some talented athletes. Not much more you could ask for.
Yeah. Other than another big play by Sarah Mextroff. No, if you're in town, come out and join us. Next game coming up soon. If not, always join us on the stream. We'd love to have you.
And we'll be back again in a few weeks, actually next weekend, for Minnesota Strike versus Nashville Nightshade. With that, we'll send you off. For Kelsey Percy, I'm Rebecca Klein. Thanks for joining us and enjoy your evening. Bye, folks.